Hey everyone, this is Zach here, your guide to the Monster Manual. This week we have the Beholder, and this episode actually was much longer than we thought it was going to be. It ended up being around 2.5 hours. So instead of releasing one huge chunk of an episode, we're going to cut it in half. So what you are about to listen to is the first half of our Beholder Super Special. In it, we cover the history of the Beholder in Dungeons & Dragons, all the way from the original Dungeons & Dragons all the way to 5th edition. Releasing this on Halloween, so hope you're having a spooky day, and yeah, tune in next week for the second part. Silence fills the treasured, riddled chamber that just mere seconds ago echoed with the sound of battle. Your mind begins to race. How did it come to this, you think, as you attempt to lift your legs now turned to stone? You and your party of heroes had spent weeks planning your daring dive into the ruins under the city. You know the abomination's lair like the back of your hand. Well, that's what you thought. There is no way it could have expected us. But it did. You take a deep breath in, your torso now turning to stone. You know you don't have many breaths left. You turn your head to the left, and where once stood the party's mighty barbarian and brilliant wizard now lies a pile of gray dust. You take one last breath in and stare back at the creature that did this to you. Its smile flickers with the flames of the chamber, and as your vision begins to fade, the last thing you see is 11 eyes staring through you. Hello, and welcome back to Survival Check, your unofficial guide to the Dungeons & Dragons 5e Monster Manual. Like always, my name is Zach, and tonight with me, beholding the Beholders, is Tevis, Shayne, and Anderson. You guys ready to do some Halloween goodness and talk about the creepiest possible monster
Behold
to come
me,
from
I'm
Dungeons &
scared.
Dragons?
Maybe. I might need an adult.
Get
you
the
might.
heck out of here, Shayne. Behold me, I'm scared.
Behold me. So this is the Halloween episode, the super special on the Beholders. Probably, arguably, the most unique and terrifying creature ever to come out of Dungeons and Dragons. So it's an OG. There's nothing like Beholders are inherently from Dungeons and Dragons. They have no frame of reference from anywhere else. They are a straight Dungeons and Dragons creation, so much that they're not even on like the open source document. Like you can't have a Beholder in any other game like Pathfinder or any of that. This is the granddaddy of original monsters, and I mean Beholders rule. For those who don't know what a Beholder is, it is a spherical creature with one large eye, usually a large mouth, and 10 eye stalks. Each of these eye stalks can deliver different types of beams, and they're true killers. And yeah, let's talk about them. So I feel like, have we all run one at this point?
Well,
Yeah, I have. Yeah, for sure.
I have.
I haven't
I
run
have
one, but I've ran into one several times.
I actually don't think I've ever encountered a beholder.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah,
No, you haven't? No, I think
No.
Ball, he joined in after the Beholder.
The
incident.
only one that I experienced was when a mechanical beholder started opening its eye at us, and the group's like, astral teleport, and boom, we dipped our plane shift or wherever the fuck it was, and we left. And yeah.
And then the world ended.
Yeah, that was some early level DMing from me.
I did have a plan to run one this arc, actually, but I replaced it with Chul instead.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, you guys have fought against a zombie Beholder, which was in the dungeon of the Fae, the Bat Fae Lord. You guys fought about it some ones. I've tried to run the Mecha Beholder 3 times, and you've ran from it all 3 times.
Well, yeah, dude. I don't know how you expect us to stay if there is an option to run. Those things are scary, especially a Mecha Beholder.
I know. It's just become a thing in my game where like there's a Mecha Beholder and you guys like plane shift. You guys just like run away.
All right, time to go.
You're just like, no, never mind. Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't worry. You guys are now in a cyberpunk world. There's so many places I can put cyberpunk beholders. you're not going to get away from them. But yes, yeah. So some of us ran them, some of them played against them. I feel like they're just iconic. They're there. I want to say even before I played Dungeons and Dragons, like I knew what a beholder was. Like they've popped up in different forms of pop culture. Like that new Onward Pixar movie, they even had like a painting of a beholder in it as like an Easter egg. Yeah. There's a Tenacious D music video where a beholder pops up too.
Really?
So like, yeah. So like beholders. Yeah, it's awesome. They're notable. We made a joke a couple episodes about dragons being like the most notable creatures from Dungeons and Dragons. I think that is true, but I think the most notable creature to come from Dungeons and Dragons has to be a beholder.
Definitely. Yeah. They've notched their place into like society and pop culture and like different funny things. You see them everywhere. I've seen like beholder plushies and different
T-shirts,
weird things like that. T-shirts, yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. So let's talk about their history. So let's. So this monster is the oldest monster we have ever covered. It goes before the Aarakocra, it goes before the Aboleth, it goes before the Angels, it goes before everyone. We have to go to 1975, 1 year after the creations of Dungeons and Dragons. So when we talk about this, we've talked about creatures from the first edition before. This monster, the Beholder, comes before first edition. It comes from straight Dungeons and Dragons. And for those who don't know how the editions go, it goes Dungeons and Dragons. It goes Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition, Dungeons and Dragons Third Edition, Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, Dungeons and Dragons Fourth Edition, Dungeons and Dragons Fifth Edition. So this is before First Edition. This is the original Dungeons and Dragons that we see this monster. And it kind of has a unique... being an iconic monster has this mythology, this myth of how it was created. Do you guys have any idea how like they came up with this monster?
No, but I'd like to think that he was extremely ecstatic when he got the idea. Probably in a shower, like
I'm
just thinking about. Yeah,
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here. Sorry, Tevis. You finish your thought. I didn't know if there was more after that.
Oh no, I mean like he was just thinking about the saying, eye of the beholder. It's like, what if there was a monster called the Beholder with a bunch of eyes?
I hope, because
either drunk,
so
high, or in a shower.
Gary Gygax.
There's been so many like riddles and stuff where the announcement of a beholder in a game is that riddle. Beauty is in the eye.
Oh, the
like
beholder.
what is in the eye of? It's like, oh fuck, like that.
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
Stuff. I'd like to go on I'm throwing out a limb here that I don't know. Gary Gygax, the guy who made all of this, was trying to come up with the monster, and there was 10 other people that were on the development team for monsters, and the 11 of them are all the eyes of the beholder. With Gary Gygax awesome. Being in the middle.
No, that would be super cool. Shayne, do you have a guess?
I think it's a little more simple than that. Spaghetti and meatballs.
No.
Maybe
so
his
I like all these.
Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sweet little Gary. And then like he was having like spaghetti that same day. He was like,
oh my god. No, these are all good guesses though. I love all of them. So the rumor has it, mythology players have spoken for this through the years, is that the creation of the Beholder actually came from one of Gary Gygax's players. Gary Gygax overheard Terry Kuntz and his brother speaking. His brother was speaking of a dream he had in which he saw this spherical creature chasing him with a giant eye. And Gary Gygax overheard that and took that and ran with it and made it a Beholder. If that's actually true, that is cool, seeing about how the Beholders and are like dreaming very much relate, especially in older lore.
I'm sure the guy who had the dream and still want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, so again, that is like you can go into forums and stuff, and people will be like talking about it. It is like a mythology and rumor, like probably normally like it's probably much more boring than that, but I want to latch onto that and think that's actually like the first beholder came from a dream, because that just makes sense and sounds cool.
I believe
but
100%.
Yeah. So with that being said, Gary Gygax took the beholder, and the first time we see a beholder is actually on the front cover of the Greyhawk supplement, which is the first supplement to ever be released for Dungeons and Dragons. For those who don't know, this episode, I should warn everyone, is going to be a decent amount of Dungeons and Dragons history, because the beholder is there for everything. But the first time we get an image of the beholder and we see a beholder in Dungeons & Dragons is in the Greyhawk supplement. The Greyhawk campaign setting and supplement was Gary Gygax's actual home world. It's like his homebrew world. I mean, I guess Dungeons & Dragons is his homebrew game also, but like this was his world he ran. His party lived in it and stuff. It's where we get Mordekainen. It's where we get Tasha's. This is where we get Bigby's. Like, those were all NPCs and player characters in Greyhawk who eventually became namesakes. So it's what Forgotten Realms was before Forgotten Realms. Greyhawk was like the original and the main lore for Dungeons and Dragons for the longest time until Forgotten Realms took it over later. But I want you guys to look. I can actually post this. To look at the original Greyhawk image cover. And those listening at home, I also recommend looking at this. And I just want you guys to tell me what your first thoughts of seeing this creature with this art. What you get from it? Yes, it is. It is something.
Huh.
Okay.
It isn't fear.
That looks like my ex-wife.
I don't feel fear. I'm a little bit uncomfortable though.
Right? I think it looks like it's going to sass you to death. It looks so damn sassy.
I'm not afraid of it. I don't want to really look at it anymore.
Yeah.
It needs like eyeliner, maybe like.
Honestly, yeah. So, like I said, if you're listening, definitely look up Supplement 1 Greyhawk, and you will see a knight, a fighter, standing next to an orb that looks like looks like it's almost rolling its eye at the fighter. It's just like, oh, what am I doing here? But it is the first image we get of a beholder, and it is fantastic.
The lips. It looks like they just they drew like a moon.
Yep.
And there's just an eyeball smack dab in the middle. And like the lips, man. The lips. And then there's the 10 eye stalks. Which are probably, I don't know. Again, I'm not afraid. I'm uneasy.
Right, that is a good way of putting it. It is. I mean, if you look at it, it is what a beholder is. It is, because also in Dungeons and Dragons 1, it establishes what a beholder is, and it stays this all the way through 5th edition. It is a sphere body. It has 1 central eye and 10 stalks. That is pretty much every base beholder that we see. We'll get variations down the line, but that is the base of a beholder. It's just not what you expect. I will say that in 2011, 2012, they came out with like a re-release of the original Dungeons and Dragons that you could buy, and they remade that artwork, and it actually looks super cool. It is now a fighting an actual badass beholder, so that artwork is cool. But yeah, so original Dungeons and Dragons, first supplement, beholder, earliest monster we've talked about so far, and yeah, so. From the original Dungeons & Dragons, they move on to 1st edition, which is the original Dungeons & Dragons is like 74, 75 to late 70s, early 80s. So 1st edition comes about there. They remain relatively the same, but they kind of play with the mechanics. So in original Dungeons & Dragons, they separated the eye stalks and the spherical body. They both had different HPs and different armor classes. So it's like you could take out the eye stalks with attacks, and you could just take out this body. It was kind of loose in original Dungeons & Dragons, but in first edition, they really like put more to that, and they talked about like, oh, if you kill a bunch of the beholder's eye stalks, but you have to run away, will they still be gone like in a month from now? So they took that, they established that beholder's eye stalks can grow back like one every week. So there's that. And they just added more lore. So I should also say they also, at this point in time, the beholder has all of its rays also in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1 and original. So it has the Charm Person, Charm Monster, Sleep Spell, Telekinesis, Flesh to Stone Ray, Disintegrate Ray, Fear Ray, Slow Ray, Serious Wound Ray, Death Ray, and Anti-Magic Ray. We get variations of that throughout its history. I mean, 5th edition, we don't have like Serious Wound Ray or I don't think Charm Monster Ray. So like these rays change, but I should note that the early editions, it had all its rays and it could fire a few off around, just like current
builders. I heard Disintegrate in there. That's all I needed to hear.
Yep, the Disintegrate is always there, and it is fantastic. So when we get first edition, we get more information on the beholder. We find out that they reproduce asexually, and actually very grossly, they barf out eggs. And they just like large beholder eggs that just hatch.
Nice.
Which is gross. We also get the artwork for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, which is I'll say better than Dungeons & Dragons. I posted it. Yeah, it is creepy. It is terrifying. I really like the artwork of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons.
But like that is more terrifying than the other.
Yes, I think that's spookier than current the way that's structured, right?
Honestly, yes. Because even if you look at that, again, this is the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons for those listening at home artwork. It has like plates of armor, kind of like almost like scabs scales or something. Yeah, it has the teeth. It has its eyes. It has all its eye stalks, all 10 of them.
This one's mouth is far more intimidating. They got rid of the lips and replaced it with an actual giant toothy mouth, which is
absolutely
really the way to go.
Yeah. And yeah, it's much more terrifying. And at this point in time, they still don't have like the whole xenophobic thing. They're not like alien. They still are like brutal creatures that are very hungry, it says. And they still like treasure and stuff, but we really don't get like what the core lore of beholders are yet. But we do still get the idea of the eye beams. We get just pretty much what a beholder is. It doesn't change. And yeah, so that's really what first the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons does for the beholder. It just adds on more lore. It gives us some new artwork. It gives us more like lore on its eye stalks and stuff. They even did a Dragon magazine number 76, that talks about the ecology of the beholder, which was in 1983, and it really just talks about, they really treated the beholder at this point in time as just kind of like they treated the aboleth, kind of just like as a strange creature from the Underdark or the underground or caverns and stuff. It doesn't have any of its alien like properties or anything like that yet. But we move forward. We move forward to second edition, which is the most important edition for beholders.
Why is that, Zach?
I'll tell you.
I want to know.
Before we talk about that, we have to talk about a specific setting in second edition. What do you guys know about Spelljammer?
I know you've said it before.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so Spelljammer is super cool. Spelljammer stuff has been popping up in modern time too, which is making me think that we might get a Spelljammer book in 5th edition. But this is taken from the wiki, so this probably can describe it better than how I can. Spelljammer introduced the AD&D universe to a comprehensive system of fantasy astrophysics. Crystal spheres may contain multiple worlds and are navigatable through using ships. So Spelljammer was pretty much sci-fi D&D. You got on ships and you went to different planes in these different crystals and you fought them. There was aerial battles. One thing to note about Spelljammer is to avoid being super sci-fi, every ship had to be different. They couldn't look like a sci-fi ship. Instead, it had to look like a galleon or an animal or a bird or a fish or some other fantastic thing. But Spelljammer very much was like your party got on a ship and you could go travel to fantastical lands. You could fight battles in the sky and space. It was really a cool out there. It really gets compared to Planescape, which also came out in second edition. Because second edition, you really see Dungeons and Dragons kind of move away from typical fantasy, and with introduction of Spelljammer and Planescape, really adds other planes to it. We talked about this a little bit in the Angels episode, where the Azamon come by, the Devils, the Demons. We have the Satanic Panic. We have the Far Realm also introduced in second edition. That's a little bit down the line, but Spelljammer is incredibly important to the Beholder because Spelljammer establishes the Beholders as these alien creatures. They're xenophobic. They think they're the greatest monster, greatest creatures in all of existence. They have a hatred for everyone else and for other Beholders. But that's not all. I feel like I'm selling something.
Tell me more.
We also, for the first time, get more than just the regular Beholder. We're going to have you guys take another guess. How many variations of Beholders do you think we get in second edition?
5.
17.
11.
We get over 20 different variations.
Whoa, okay.
People estimate through all the books of second edition and all the different supplements that it's probably around 25 to 30 different types of Beholders in this edition. So much that there is a joke that goes on the older forums that by the end of second edition, people were like, get rid of the Beholders. Just because every single adventure had some type of Beholder in it. It was Beholder fever. It was crazy. It was madness. You'd have Spelljammer ships where Beholders would be like roaming on them and flying the ships. And I actually did some research and I grabbed a couple of my favorite of these variations. So, they also introduced in second edition, along with Beholders, Beholderkin, which are like creatures that are kind of from the same Beholder race, but they're not like they don't have the typical 1 eye, 10 eye stalks. They're a little bit different. But starting, we have the Eye of the Deep, which is a Beholder from under the sea. I think we actually get this one in 5th edition. I need to look at Volos again. But if not, it is a Beholder under the sea. It still has some eye stalks, but it also has 2 lobster claws, and its main eye, instead of doing anti-magic, stuns its prey so it can't see, and then grabs it with its claws and eats it. Which is,
if you're stunned, can you breathe? Being underwater while you're stunned seems like a death sentence.
It does, especially if you run into an underwater lobster
Beholder. Like whether it claws you or not. Like I would be so petrified if I was stunned under.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. I actually don't know, but if you get stunned underwater, you are pretty much screwed. And then from there, you have the Hive Mother, which is twice the size of a common Beholder. So Beholders up to this point are still like 10 to 15 feet large. They're large creatures. It is said that the Hive Mother can eat a medium creature in 1 bite. And the Hive Mother actually controls the Beholder's ships in Spelljammer. So it's like the mother brain of the ship. It controls all the ships and stuff. Right?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
That's
it really is. It really
is.
is. Like, I'm not going to have you guys look this up, but like, you can just type in second edition Beholder art, and there's so many different art for all these different Beholders. It's super cool. Another one that is like a Beholderkin, which I was talking about, is an Examiner, which is like the working class of the Beholders. They create magic items and wield tools, and they like are super magical in that way. We have the Overseers, which are probably the strangest of the Beholders we get. They take on the appearance of giant trees with 13 eye stalks that appear to be branches. 3 mouths that wrap around the main body, and 8 thorn-covered limbs used to hold tools or strike out.
That
I want that.
It's a beholder tree.
I want more of that in my life.
Yeah,
I'll have what he's having.
Oh, exactly. The second edition beholders are awesome. They're so cool. And then we actually are introduced to two of the beholders that are in 5th edition in this book too. We're introduced to the Death Tyrant, which is created from a dying beholder who performs a ritual on himself to create a dying beholder, which is different than the 5th edition lore. I will say I like the 5th edition lore the best, and when we get there, I will talk about it. But
personally, I do as well. I know the 5th edition lore for Death Tyrants, and I like that much better. It's more fitting for a beholder.
It is. I think the beholders lore in 5th edition is the coolest out of any edition. We also get spectators, and the spectators are pretty much the same. They're like these 4-eyed eye stalks, low CR spectators that you can call and like guard your treasure and summon them. Wizards can summon them. But yeah, we also get in 2nd edition, like I talked about, they're xenophobic. We also get that they're alien. We get the psychic ability. They kind of warp reality around themselves. They're strange. They're very much like the Aboleth from the Far Realm. They're Lovecraftian in a sense. But they warp reality around them, which is something very big that we get in 2nd edition that stays all the way through to 5th edition. The last thing I want to talk about in 2nd edition is one of the books that actually came out called I, and then, Tyrant. Which, if you can guess it, it's an adventure book about beholders.
Ooh, who would have thought?
Yeah. And let me read this little summary of it. So in I, Tyrant, it is revealed that there was once a massive city of 2,000 plus beholders that resided far below the surface. For thousands of years, they existed together, constantly fighting and politicking against each other until eventually they destroyed each other through civil unrest and their extreme xenophobia of not only other races, but of each other. The city was lost for hundreds of years, though a hive mother had discovered the city and is attempting to restore it to its former glory. So that's a cool adventure. I'd run that.
I like the concept.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. So, 2nd edition really establishes the beholder. It gives us 20 to 30 different variations. It really is like, okay, the beholder is not just a sphere and eyes. It's like an alien race that has everything that you can think of. You want a tree beholder? Boom. You want a big beholder? Boom. You want a small beholder? Boom. You have it. Any type of beholder. Like I said, there was even some like beholder burnout towards the end of 2nd edition because how many popped up. Yeah, really. Then we move into 3rd edition and 3.5. So, in true nature of 3.3 and 3.5, we get versions of the beholder. We have the eyeball beholder, which is a very small, tiny version of the beholder. It's just an eyeball. We have the gouger beholder, which is like a barbarian beholder. It's just like large thing that can like whack you around and eat you and stuff. It's not as magical. Yeah. In 2005, in 3rd edition, a book called Lords of Madness, the Book of Aberrations, come out, and to no one's surprise, there's an entire chapter on beholders, which sounds like a cool book. I might just pick that up for my collection because that sounds like a cool book I just want to have. Lords of Madness, the Book of Aberrations, like it talks about aboleths, mind flayers, all that stuff.
That's pretty sweet.
So yeah, so 3rd edition doesn't really add any new lore to beholders. It just gives us more. I do want to talk about Eberron here, so in true Eberronian fashion, when it comes out in 3.5, Keith Baker takes and puts his own twist on beholders like he does with everything, and beholders are actually not these like crazy xenophobic things in the other worlds. Instead, they are the living artillery for the Dalkir. So beholders are actual living weapons in Eberron, which is cool.
Like mortar?
Like more pretty much.
How?
So how I read it is like they're living artillery. So the Dalkir in Eberron are like these crazy far realm creatures that like actually come from nightmares and dreams and stuff. And there used to be a war between them and the goblins. But how I read it is the Dalkir would like send in beholders, and it would just like land in the middle of a bunch of goblins, and its eye stalks would be like kind of like Iron Giant. And all the lasers come out and just like start evaporating all the goblins.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is cool. And then we go to 4th edition, and we've talked about 4th edition a lot because 4th edition always gives us so many different types of creatures.
Oh boy. Oh boy, I'm ready for it.
40
I'm ready for it.
And boy, does 4th edition deliver for the beholder. So they give us, I think, like around 10, but this is like onto the already 20 that was established in 2nd edition. We have the Eye of Flame that it says it can telekinetically light people on fire.
That's pretty lit.
That is pretty lit.
Sign me up.
And then I think you guys are going to appreciate. So the 4th edition, the beholder is called the Eye Tyrant. Just to like form it as the basic. But the basic version of beholder in 4th edition is crazy. It doesn't have the anti-magic cone, but it also gets to shoot an eye ray at anyone who starts their turn within 20 feet of it.
Oh.
Nice.
So talk about action economy. It's not an action or reaction or anything. You literally walk 25 feet closer to the beholder and it gets to beam you. So
can you imagine giant bowling balling a beholder in 4th edition down like the party?
Yeah, it's just like shooting lasers forever. I think I read somewhere that like technically a 4th edition beholder could like shoot like 10 beams in a round if you wanted to. Yeah.
Okay.
It also says in 4th edition that like in its dying breath it shoots all its lasers again.
At once?
I think it's like at anyone who's close enough, it will just start shooting like pretty much.
Rigor mortis of laser beams.
Yeah.
Just all the eye stalks are tracking tense up and they all just shoot out their last.
Which is super awesome.
No one ever saw this thing.
I mean,
unless it was like a level 21 shot.
I mean, I'm pretty sure 4th edition is also. Let me double check my Banshee notes.
3rd edition.
Nope, 3rd edition was the one with CR17 Banshee. 4th edition was just also crazy monsters. So the beholder, that's the Eye Tyrant. The same thing. We also get an Eye of Chaos, which is one that shoots beams of madness at you. There's an Eye of Frost one that you find in cold climates that freezes you. We have the Ultimate Tyrant, which takes the Beholder Tyrant that Eye Tyrant I talked about, gives it about a 500 more HP, makes it bigger, and I think allows it to shoot even more beams.
Oh my. Wait, what was that one called?
The Ultimate Tyrant.
Yeah, of course, it would be.
Yeah. So then from the Ultimate Tyrant, we have the Beholder Spawn, which are just little baby beholders. We have the Eye of the Shadow, which are like Shadowfell beholders that can like do necromancy and shit. Nice. And then we have my favorite version of the beholder from 4th edition, which is a ghost beholder who just refuses to die. It just dies and says, "No, I don't."
No!
And that's exactly its lore. That's exactly its lore. It dies, but it's like, nah. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be a ghost beholder. Yeah, so it just refuses to die. Like it just will not die. Which is amazing. So that is all the way original Dungeons & Dragons of 4th edition, and then we get into 5th edition. So the 5th edition, like me and Anderson were talking about before, has some really cool lore for the beholders. So they're still xenophobic isolationists. They're still tyrants. They're still alien layers, but they really amplify in 5th edition their ability to bend reality around them so much that the core theme of the lore of beholders is they are born when another beholder dreams of them. So an example would be a death tyrant. A death tyrant dreams of its death or everlasting death. And through this dream, this reality bending dream, it becomes a death tyrant, something that is immune to death, something undead. So through its dream, it warps things. This also gives us the opportunity that it also says that every beholder is unique because whatever that beholder dreams of causes it. So it allows us to take all the beholders from previous editions, like we don't have stats for them, but it really makes it possible for you pretty much to have any beholder because that's how they're born, is by being dreamed of, which is so cool.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Yeah,
talk about OP.
pretty much. It doesn't help that they hate each other though. So like if they dream and they appear next to each other, it's just a war.
Slay them.
Immediately war between the two.
A big one dreams of a baby one just to kill it.
Oh my god!
I mean, it would like Beholder totally would kill a child if it was like, no, I'm the better. So before we talk about like the actual lore and like what makes a 5th edition Beholder a 5th edition, other than that, we only get one new Beholder in the monster manual. For 5th edition, we get more in Volos. We get a couple new ones in Volos, but we get a zombie Beholder, which is at the back of the book. It's not actually in the Beholder section. It's in the zombie section. Which I kind of wish they would have just kept the ghost zombie. I mean, not ghost. Wow, a ghost zombie. That would truly Halloweeny. I wish they would have kept the ghost Beholder. Because the zombie Beholder is literally just a Beholder that's a zombie. I've ran one of them before, which was fun, but yeah, that's the only new Beholder we get in the 5th edition monster manual. But let's talk about what makes a Beholder a Beholder. So this is the first paragraph in the monster manual. It says, one glance at a Beholder is enough to assess its foul and otherworldly nature. Aggressive, hateful, and greedy, these aberrations dismiss all other creatures as lesser beings, toying with them or destroying them as they choose. So that goes all the way back to 2nd edition. They think they're the greatest thing. They're like oh god, Doctor Who fans, don't yell at me if I say this wrong. Daleks from Doctor Who, you know, the exterminate. I think I'm the only one who's watched Doctor Who here.
Probably.
Yeah. Not I.
In Doctor Who, there is a being of aliens that just want to exterminate all their life because they think they're the best, and that's pretty much what Beholders are. So we get that first flavor text, and then the second, the first, bolded statement about Beholders is xenophobic isolationists, and it's a huge paragraph, but pretty much is they hate every other race. They might even hate other Beholders more. They are incredibly paranoid of all other living things. They believe because Beholders want to destroy everything else, they believe that is what everyone else wants. And they are incredibly paranoid creatures. Yeah. It also talks about in this that they are, it says Beholders vary greatly in their physical forms, making conflict between them inevitable. Some Beholders are protected by overlapping chitinous plates. Some have smooth hides. Some have eye stalks that wreathe like tentacles, while others' stalks bear crustacean-like joints. Even slight differences of coloration and hide can turn two Beholders into lifelong enemies. So a Beholder could dream of a Beholder that looked exactly like it, but like if it had one freckle on one eye stalk that the other Beholder didn't have, immediately enemies. So
okay.
Yeah. We have the second thing is the Eye Tyrant. So it talks about how they channel their xenophobic tendencies into terrible despotism. They do control other creatures and stuff they can, and they've even been found like enslaving vast empires. It also says an Eye Tyrant sometimes carves out carves out in a domain within or under a major city, commanding networks of agents that operate on their master's behalf. I believe that is in reference to Xanathar. So the monster manual has a Beholder on the front, but that's not the only 5th edition supplement that has a Beholder on the front of its cover, and that would be Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Xanathar is a Beholder.
Xanathar is a Beholder. Yes, Xanathar is one of the more notable actual named Beholders in the Forgotten Realms. They live under, I want to say, Waterdeep and run the Thieves Guild there.
Okay. That's fun.
That is cool. It's fun. So it's Xanathar, and he also has that goldfish that he loves. But it is, and also an important note on that is Xanathar is not actually that Beholder's name. Xanathar is just whoever is the head of the Thieves Guild under Waterdeep. But the Beholder has been it for a bit. But so it does show like Beholders can like control factions and stuff. So Xanathar is like questing for knowledge, and he runs the Thieves Guild and Thieves faction in Waterdeep. And then the last part of them is they have alien layers. They usually can be found in frigid hills, abandoned ruins, and deep caverns. They use these to scheme. They'll actually carve out their layer with their disintegration eye ray, which is really cool. And yeah, something I kind of noted at in the intro is beholders are so paranoid that they pretty much have a plan for everything. Like, I heard someone in a YouTube video be like, oh, the party's going to teleport in with the T-Rex. Good thing that the beholder has a way to kill a T-Rex because it has thought about it. It just literally sits in its layers.
It just knows.
It does. So its lore from out the last few editions, and 5th edition we get a little bit of this, is like beholders literally are so paranoid. They spend every waking hour thinking of all the different ways people will kill them. So it's pretty hard to like pull one over on them because they've thought of like 50 contingency plans. And we get that with their stat block too. We see they have a large passive perception. Yeah, so that's pretty much the lore of 5th edition. So we see that they become a little bit more psychic in this one. They get a little bit more reality bending powers. They dream, and that is how they are born. It's no longer they're spitting out eggs out of their mouth like in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This time they dream of the creature and they come about. They usually hate each other. They're xenophobic. They're meanies. They're big meanies.
Yeah, I'm not mad they took away the eggs.
Yeah, I'm not mad they threw away the eggs either. But because there's not only the beholders in this monster manual, we have to talk about the Death Tyrant and the Spectator. So what I just talked about was the actual like base beholders lore. So if we go to the Death Tyrant, which is the second beholder we get in the monster manual, we actually get this first paragraph, which I think is really cool. So it says, on rare occasions, a beholder's sleeping mind drifts to places beyond its normal madness, imagining a reality in which it exists beyond death. When such dream takes hold, a beholder can transform, its flesh slowing away to leave a death tyrant behind. The monster possesses the cunning and much of the magic it had in life, but it is fueled by the power of undeath. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, if a beholder dreams something, they can transform into it. So this literally, a beholder just has to dream of being of undeath, and it becomes a death tyrant if it wants.
What if it dreamed of being a ballerina?
It probably could.
Would it then become like the top ballerina in the entire world?
Oh, absolutely!
And
probably even
take control.
Like a tutu. Yeah, honestly, if a beholder wanted to dance, it might grow legs. Who knows? But yeah, so we get the Death Tyrant. That's the Death Tyrant. They're undead beholders. They have armies of the undead. The second paragraph, I think. This is actually the third paragraph, which I think is really cool about the Death Tyrant. Is a Death Tyrant that embraces undeath becomes an engine of destruction, driven by a hunger for power and security. It advances against humanoid settlements, using its eye rays to destroy every creature it encounters. Then build an army of the undead. If left unchecked, a Death Tyrant might wipe out the population of a city in weeks, then set its undead eye on wider conquest. As each settlement falls, the Death Tyrant's zombie forces build to overwhelming numbers. So Death Tyrants, unlike beholders, they don't have the anti-magic ray, but they have their main eye shoot this cone out that if you die in it, you rise up and become zombies. They are actually more powerful than necromancers in that way because they do not have to use extra magic to create zombies, and they do not have to concentrate on them. They just become zombies. So you ever need a undead leader leading a bunch of undead armies, why not a beholder? And then the smallest, the lowest CR of the three, well, there's the zombie beholder. That's the fourth one. That one doesn't have any lore. It's just the beholder. That's a zombie. You probably can make some cool lore for it, but the book doesn't give it to you. But the last beholder that we get in the monster manual is the Spectator, and it is a lesser beholder. It is actually it's weird. It's strange. It only has 4 eye stalks. It is much smaller. It is actually medium compared to the large, and I think huge. Nope, just large of the other 2 beholders. And they are these like little magical guardians that you summon, and they will guard your treasure for 101 years. Don't know why 101 years specifically, but when you summon a Spectator, you can guard that. They will guard an area or its treasure for 101 years. They're actually lawful neutral. They are a little bit less insane than the other beholders. Other beholders are pretty much crazy. This one is a little more insane, and once it's fulfilled its services, it can do whatever it wants. But yeah, you'll see like wizards or other like forms of protection. They'll summon spectators through arcane rituals, and yeah, they're like little guard dogs, little guard beholders. They're cool. I like them. They have lesser rays and all that stuff. But that is pretty much the 5th edition, what we get in 5th edition for beholders. So yeah.
Spectators are kind of adorable.
They really are.
That's a word.
I mean, more so than the other ones.
It has like the scream tongue, like the scream mouse tongue. Like It is more than it is the most adorable of the 3 beholders, sure.
I don't know, dude. That Death Tyrant, he looking smooth.
He looks cool.
He does look cool. Oh, I should also note, I think there is little flavor text for the beholder and the Death Tyrant. So this is like a little writing from a dwarf sage. It says, every beholder thinks it is the epitome of beholderkind, and the only thing it fears is that it might be wrong. And that is from a dwarf sage. And on the beholder, and then we have a part of a journal from an explorer of the Undermountain, and it says, a cluster of tiny lights descended from a dark crevice in the ceiling. These motes cast an eerie glow on the great alien skull that hung beneath them. So that's kind of describing the Death Tyrant. The Death Tyrant is a skeleton. Its eye stalks are no more, and its eyes are just replaced with these like glowing pink orbs, which is really cool. And yeah, that is a 5th edition lore, and that's actually the history of the beholder. There's a lot. I will say that is the revised history of the beholder. I could have spent like 4 hours on the history of the beholder.
History of the beholder.
Brief, yeah. Behold the brief history of the beholder. I should have said this up front. This episode's probably gonna get split into 2 parts. So it's probably gonna be the first half is us talking about the history. The second half is gonna be talking about the stat block and that. But you'll know when you're listening to it. Oh, say that.
Does anyone have a favorite so far?
If we're talking about through all of history, I really like the Overseer, the tree beholder. That one is so cool.
Yeah. That's
Imagine making that a gargantuan creature.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Making it like a quote unquote world tree of like a dimension, but like it's just corrupted. Like
I'm gonna send you guys a picture of it right now. Which if you Google Overseer Beholder, they are fucking twisted.
I think I like the.
Oh, that's not what I thought. Oh, okay.
Yeah, not what I thought at all either.
That's not the original art. This is the original art. I will just say, look up 2nd edition Beholders. They have the best art, I think, for them. It really shows what different types can. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Shayne.
Well, what's the jumper? Is that what it's called? Where they're in the sci-fi setting?
Oh, Spelljammer.
Spelljammer. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite one I've heard so far. Anyway, like I like that a lot. Using the mothership brain,
the Hive Mother one. Yeah. I think I say this about Planescape to you, is I hope that we get a Spelljammer campaign setting in 5th edition. This is not really that spoiler, but I heard that Spelljammer pops up in the new Baldur's Gate game a couple times.
Ooh.
So I don't know what that says.
Wizards of the Coast, are you listening?
You also have the Waterdeep Adventure, I think the Mad Mage one. I heard there's also an Easter egg where a Spelljammer ship can be found in there. So it's like that'd be cool. Give us Spelljammer. I don't know. Spelljammer's cool. I mean, I'm glad they already gave me Eberron. I can't ask for more. But if you are listening, Spelljammer next, please. Or Dark Sun. I don't think Dark Sun, they would do Dark Sun. I don't think it would be that popular. But yeah. And then the last part of this, we usually talk about, do they have real world origins? No, that's what makes them so unique and cool. Is these are like the Mind Flayers. These are 100% Dungeons and Dragons creatures. They do not come from any other mythology. You can argue that they have some Lovecraftian feel to them, which they do, but these are 100% Dungeons and Dragons characters. Hey everyone, Zach again. Thank you for listening to the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I think the history of the Beholders is very fascinating. As always, from me and my co-host, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it, and we really hope this information we're providing can help you in your D&D campaign. Anyway, as always, be excellent to each other, and we will be back next week with part 2 of the Beholders as we take a dive and look at their stat blocks, and we talk about how we would use them in our games. Bye, everyone.